Good morning and welcome. This is Tammy Bennett. I'm a doctor of Oriental Medicine. I'm here in Orlando, Florida. My show is called A Modern Healer's Journey, and I'm looking at a beautiful Orlando skyline today. It's sunny and wonderful, and I'm pleased to have Maryann Conley Grant on the show today to talk a little bit about how we met, her passion for helping other people, her dramatic story about an issue that she and her husband had gone through. And I was privy to this information, and I thought it was helpful to share for other people to learn about what her experience was and how we can help other people avoid some of the problems that she and her husband had when they were dealing with this particular issue. So if you would, tell the audience how we met.
We met 5.5, 6 years ago now. I was actually referred to your clinic in Longwood for some possible help for my husband, John, who suffered a foot wound. He stepped on a piece of shell on the beach and suffered quite a dramatic stage 4 wound on the bottom of his foot. And that's how we met. And I'm a registered nurse of 38 years now. I retired a year and a half ago. But being a registered nurse, learned Western medicine, but my true love and my true interest was natural medicine. And I don't like to use the word alternative medicine at all. I like natural medicine and ancient healing techniques. So that's how, through a process of elimination, we got to you.
Yeah.
And
I remember the dramatic photos you sent by text initially before we saw each other face to face, and it was nothing short of just dramatic. I mean, it was amazing what your husband went through. And if I remember correctly, he had been through several physician offices prior to even getting to me, because you had gotten frustrated with the system here. Now, you had come from up north, right? From Maryland, maybe, or
Maryland, the DC area.
Right. And I, from my understanding, is the wound care situation up there, and learning this through other patients now as well, is different than what was being applied here. And it was amazing to me to learn that there was such a difference in care being offered from one part of the country to the other. But let me go back for a second. You're a very nurturing human being. I know this about you because we've talked many times about patient care. How did you get to the point where you were interested in alternative, I'm not going to use the word alternative, but holistic and medicine practices versus the traditional because of your former training? How did you get there to that space?
Oh, well, quite a journey. I became a nurse in 1983. I originally wanted to be a dancer. That didn't happen in New York City. So it was a great opportunity, and I worked in labor and delivery and operating room and neonatal intensive care unit. Nursing is a great profession you don't have to be stuck in one area if you don't like it. And my son had a genetic disease. My late son, Shane, was diagnosed with a very rare genetic disease, mucopolysaccharidosis, when he was a very small child. No treatment, no cure. Still no treatment, no cure. And through university settings, there was really nothing they could do except experiment on him and make him worse, actually. So we kept him happy and healthy-ish with his situation until 12 and a half years old, when he passed away. and the average lifespan of this disease is 2 to 6 years old. So we gravitated towards natural healers, food, and spirituality, a bunch of stuff. And I think we prolonged his life by double. And that's how I learned that natural medicine, not just chemicals and poisons, really, really are I feel God's gift to us. So that's how I came into it.
Like other people, like myself, you probably did research, you read books, you asked professional people, you did your due diligence, and you found what worked for you and your family. Right. Did your family back you up on this? Everybody was congruent?
No, not really. Okay. I'm from rural Pennsylvania originally, and very much if a doctor said jump off a bridge, that's what we did. And so it was not met with much enthusiasm. But, I saw him declining and the exorbitant amount of money, and we spoke with hundreds. I mean, I corresponded with people from Europe, doctors in Europe, and there was a doctor in Wisconsin that we were trying to get Shane to, who was doing stem cell transplants at the time. But we spoke with so many people, so many people. And unfortunately, there wasn't the internet access. Well, there was internet, but not quite the way it is today. But so phone calls, I spent thousands of dollars calling Switzerland, where they were doing some research on this. So yes, we did quite extensive research and due diligence, and we didn't totally negate Western medicine. We had to try to integrate it, but at the end, it was not going to do it. So that's what happened. Family support. I ended up divorcing from Shane's dad because of some ethical and moral stuff. And but we had Shane until he was 12 and a half years old, much longer than anybody thought. And I'm proud that to be his mother. He taught me so much. He was a great kid. He never let his physical situation interfere with his emotional. He just would watch other kids play and have fun. And we learned so much from him. Yeah. We did. But it made me who I am today. Yeah, he's
I hate to say a blessing in disguise, but
no, I know.
Possibly so. So
sure.
To John's situation, the dramatic change in his foot and what he was going through. I know you guys went through a lot of traditional doctor situations, and tell us about the point where you were like, I've done all these things and I need to do something else. What got you to that place?
So John is a type 1 diabetic. And he's been one since he's been 25 years old.
Type 1 for people is the kind that is basically called childhood diabetes or juvenile diabetes, right?
It is. However, John became a type 1 diabetic at 25. He was actually a mixed martial artist, and he was kicked in the stomach. And the guy's toe actually crushed his pancreas.
Oh, wow.
So he became an instant diabetic.
I didn't know that part of the story.
Yeah. He became an instant diabetic. And so he is insulin dependent since he was been 25, 26 years old. And he is now, he just turned 64. But at the time, this was 5 years ago, so he was 58, 59. Okay. We went to internal medicine doctors, of course, what insurance required. And then we were referred to a wound care clinic here locally in Ormond Beach, Florida. And we saw the chief. And it was antibiotic after scalpel debridement, after crazy, just didn't make sense. The stuff they were trying to pack it open. And it's like, you're putting gauze into an open wound. How is it going to heal? Biofilm, which is a slimy covering that forms because of bacteria, they were trying to rip it off. And ripping it off, it would cause extensive bleeding. It made the wound worse. He was in the hospital 8 times for debridement, which is using a scalpel, and antibiotic therapy. And a year and a half, 18 months. And the wound smelled horribly. John is a professional business owner, and it was just unbelievable.
Right.
So I was actually literally fighting with this doctor, literally. And the doctor looked at me in the face and said, you know what? He's going to get this foot amputated. I'm just placating you because I need to amputate it. I'm like, wait, what? So his goal was not to heal the wound. His goal was to amputate the leg.
Right.
I found out he owned a prosthetic limb device company.
Oh,
so
interesting.
Yeah. He and I came to blows several times.
Gotcha.
So we went to a larger wound care facility in Orlando, and they were absolutely antiquated in their practices and protocols from the north. I called some of my people up north, and they were like, we haven't used these techniques in 10, 20 years. So, I saw how depressed and frustrated John became and how it overcame his life. And I thought, this is enough. And I thought, we're going to go stem cell, research some other things that happened. And that's how I came to your facility, because you were doing the stem cell film transfers. So that's how it came to be. Out of hundreds of thousands of dollars in hospitalizations, John's insurance dropped him. Yeah. And I was fighting with these doctors who were just clueless.
Doesn't it feel like sometimes the system, the wheel that turns the system is the issue, and not necessarily the doctors themselves? I'm not saying all the doctors are great or all the doctors are bad. There's good and bad in every basket.
Yep.
I totally get it.
Yep.
I'm not an anti-doctor person.
Right.
But the situation seems to be the system is not right. I don't know how to fix it. And maybe through all of this education, through talking to people like yourself, we'll figure out a way to fix things and learn from each other. But it feels, you could drive 1,000 miles from here and get totally different wound care than you can here in Central Florida. That makes no sense to me whatsoever.
It's ridiculous. Absolutely.
And I'm
insanity.
assuming it's insurance driven.
It is insurance driven, and it's money driven. And this, you find out that a lot of these physicians they're held to a protocol by administrators or healthcare administrators that have no incentive to change the protocol, to heal this, or to look at new therapies.
Well, those administrators don't take an oath, do they?
No, they do not.
Okay.
No, they do not. We even paid out of pocket, and it was just craziness. $1,400 a session for hyperbaric chamber.
Right.
Now, we found that the hyperbaric chambers were 50 years old at this local hospital here, and they were not, they were leaking. It was just incredible, absolutely incredible. But it was money driven. It was big pharma driven, but every time we went to various doctors, let's have a new antibiotic. Let's have a new wound care dressing that they were trying to promote or they had interest in.
Right. The flavor of the week.
Exactly. We were supposed to be subservient and compliant.
Right.
compliant. We were non-compliant. They didn't like me at all. I was questioning, what is your rationale? And it was a battle, and it was an unnecessary battle. It really was an unnecessary battle. Aren't we all on the same team?
I would have thought so. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you went through multiple doctors, multiple protocols, tried a bunch of different things. Did you try holistic methods that didn't work? And I want to play devil's advocate here and help people, right?
The only thing that we tried now in conjunction, and I have a feeling that we tried Manuka honey, which is a fabulous wound healer. However, it was tried in conjunction with a Western medicine treatment. Okay. And I think that treatment negated the honey's effect.
Okay.
Now, at that time. Now, after we went to the totally holistic and we changed his diet, got rid of all sugars, we found out he was deficient in vitamin D, vitamin C, B12. He was in chronic scurvy. And most patients in nursing homes who have wounds have scurvy.
Wow.
And zinc deficiencies. No one's testing them. No one even brought it up about, well, maybe his diet, or maybe he's vitamin deficiency in a healing vitamin. We met this very, very phenomenal, interesting man called Dr. Mitch Kaminsky. Dr. Kaminsky is 96 years old. He was a world Korean War surgeon, battlefield surgeon. He is a wound care phenom. He is amazing in his theories. And he found out through 50 years of research that it's vitamin deficiency, it's the scurvy he identified. He worked in thousands of nursing homes throughout the country, and he found that pretty much 100% of people who had non-healing wounds had scurvy.
Wow.
So how do you fix that?
Vitamin C.
Give vitamin C. When I suggested IV vitamin C infusion, I was like, are you crazy? What? Who? What? Say what? Who does that? That's craziness. Never heard of it. So we had to pay out of pocket. So I took a second job just to pay for John's treatments because they're not cheap.
No.
And then they're not covered by insurance. But he's got two legs.
Yeah.
Today.
So going through all of this, what would you, we could dissect and talk about bad doctors, good doctors. We could talk about holistic versus Western and so on. But I want to talk specifically to patient care. So for people that are going through a wound healing crisis, what would you suggest now that you've learned all the things that you've learned? Mm-hmm. What would you recommend from an RN perspective, right? From your put your RN hat on mm-hmm. and say, mm-hmm. this is what I would do first. And I'll add some traditional Chinese medicine things behind it so that we can help people that are suffering. Sure.
First off, you go to your internal medicine doctor. Let's get blood work. Let's get real deep dive blood work that shows if you're deficient in vitamins, minerals, the healing. And if the doctor doesn't know what the healing vitamins and supplements in your body should be levels, ask him to research them.
So let me stop you for a second. I listened to a podcast the other day. A gentleman by the name of Brigham Bueller was on the Joe Rogan podcast, and he was a pharmacy rep for Eli Lilly, I believe. I'll have to fact check it later, but I'm pretty sure that's what he said. And he was talking about the fact that he, as a young adult, was very overweight, and he tried really hard to lose weight. And he kept asking his doctor to give him a full blood panel. And the doctor never ran a full blood panel for him. He would just do the CBC and the CMP, but he never tested other things, and he kept asking for it. And the doctor said, well, we don't do that. So from my experience with ordering blood work for patients for nutritional deficiencies and looking at that, one of the things that's available now is a patient can go to a lab directly and pay cash out of pocket and ask for extended lab work if you're not dealing with a functional medicine doctor. So an internal medicine might have functional medicine background, or a functional medicine doctor might have some internal medicine background, but oftentimes those don't always meet. So I want people to know that are watching this, if you have questions, you can always go to your lab, like Quest or LabCorp, or an independent lab, and ask for an expanded panel, like for your vitamin D and your C and other minerals and things like that. So I just wanted to add that in there so people know.
Sure. Right. A lot of people don't know what they don't know.
Right.
They don't know to ask for this stuff. And they trust their doctor, or their insurance won't let them change. But if you don't have the out-of-pocket money to pay independent lab, really push and say, if your insurance allows, change doctors. Or say, I'm not happy with this. You're not allowing me to do this. What is your rationale? Question them.
Yeah.
Why won't you order it? Does it matter to you? Is it any skin off your teeth? No. Order it. Just humor me. Humor me. Maybe play to that. Secondly, if you're sent to, if it feels wrong, it is wrong. If someone's coming at you with a scalpel and cutting away skin that is healthy and healing, just because their protocol says to debride it, and you're seeing bits of your foot on the floor, it's not going to feel right. There's going to be like a little voice in your head that says, this isn't exactly right.
Well, because
and I think
those wounds heal from the inside out, correct?
Correct. Yes.
And if you're cutting away, doesn't that then send the signaling elsewhere and not the healing inside? I think you can probably describe that better than I can.
Well, no, it doesn't send a signal elsewhere. If it's a wound that is, we'll say this is a wound, and if it's going to heal, it's going to granulate up. The bottom, the base of the wound is going to heal up and fill that bowl in. If you cut away, the theory is to cut away, it's called eschar or biofilm, so it doesn't cover the wound and you still have this bowl, this opening, okay? That's the theory of cutting away, but they become too aggressive. And these granulocytes and things that are, and they pack the wound open to keep it open so it's supposed to heal upwards. I don't think they mean to do harm most of the time. They think they're doing the right thing, but
they're following the rules.
They're following the rules, and they're also misguided, just misguided. So if you go to your doctor and they come at you with a scalpel, and by the way, never, if I can say anything, never let anyone come at you with a scalpel with a wound by your wound. Never. A butter knife is the sharpest thing that should be by your wound. If they want to scrape away if it looks infected or some little bit of eschar that looks infected, or biofilm, which is that slimy stuff, because that carries bacteria.
Right.
Use nothing but a butter knife or like your fingernail. Never a scalpel. If that's the only thing that anybody hears out of this, especially in this part of the country where things are a little slower, never let anybody do that. Never. So I guess as an RN, if you're going to a Western doctor in your Medicare, or you have your insurance says you're HMO or whatever, you have to go to this practice, and you've got a wound that's not healing, maybe talk to those practitioners and say, you know what, this isn't working. Can we look at other things? Can we just try something else? Is there another protocol that you don't know about? Or that can we just try?
And if, let's say, for example, somebody says, yeah, sure, I'm open to it. Are there techniques and things that you have used with John that you might recommend that they research? I think for one of my patients, you had talked about using a specific dressing instead of a gauze. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, gauze, cotton, your body sees it as a foreign object. Okay. And it's going to fight against it. Okay. So honey is nature's wound care cream. Manuka honey, even just raw honey, stick it in there. There is some creams and some dressings out there that are from human umbilical cord stem cells. They are Medicare, they're FDA approved, they are Medicare approved, so they will be paid for by insurance. It's a little bit pricey for the doctor to order it and to learn how to use it. It's a little tricky. You have to put it on a special way. But the old technique of what's called wet to dry, you put a wet cotton gauze in the wound to keep it moist, and it gradually keeps it to dry, and you keep it open. It's not going to heal. You can even put just saran wrap to it's called occlude the wound, to make it airtight. Seal it, keep it, put saran wrap, tape it around, and put some honey in there. And if you can get your hands on this human umbilical cord cream, and keep it like that for 4 days. If the wound is on the bottom of a foot, of course, you don't put pressure on that wound. Right. But that's what actually healed John's foot in 2 weeks.
And you have gone through this how long?
18 months. Okay. 18 months. I could show you pictures, bloody bed sheet. I mean, it was just horrible. Yeah. Horrible.
And in 2 weeks, using
the wound care cream, well, offloading, number one, the occlusive dressing we had a little bit of Manuka honey and the collagen powder. It's a powder that we use. Okay. That's a ground up human umbilical cord stem cell byproduct. Okay. That was it's burn units up north. I called Georgetown. And they were like, oh yeah, we'll send you some. I was like, are you out of your... I was like, why didn't we just make the trip to D.C. or Georgia even? We found out in Savannah, Georgia. Right. They were doing the same thing. So instead of taking the dressing off 3 or 4 times a day, just cover it with an occlusive dressing, a waterproof dressing, an airtight dressing, and let the body do its work. God made this body for a reason, and your body's going to heal if you just leave it alone.
So I want to recap because we're getting close on time, and you shared a ton of good personal information. I really appreciate it. You're going to help a ton of people.
Hope so.
So to recap, number one, if you go to your internal medicine doctor, and if the doctor is open to suggestion of new and interesting things, try to develop a relationship with the doctor that way. If not, go for a second or third or fourth opinion. Don't always take one person's word for it. The next thing on the list is change the diet. Avoid sugar as often as possible, if not forever. I'm a big proponent of no sugar. It makes sense. Too. Feeds other diseases that we won't even get into now because that's a whole other discussion. Yeah. The second thing is make sure you're not using a foreign object on the wound itself. So cotton and gauze is not the best way. Using a Manuka honey and either a Tegaderm or a saran wrap around it. Keep the pressure off the foot for at least 4 days. And if you can get that umbilical cord product from different resources, I'm sure with the internet, people can find this stuff. an umbilical cord powder or collagen powder, to use that as well. And then make sure that if somebody comes at you with a scalpel, that you suggest you would like something different, or maybe not doing that scalpel technique. You've done the other first.
Right. But don't forget the vitamin. Make sure you get your vitamins.
Yep.
Vitamin C, that you're not deficient in zinc.
Yep. Check all the vitamins.
Vitamin C, all the vitamins. And just take a supplement. Go to CVS if you have to. Right. And buy, if they have 500 milligrams of vitamin C, take 4 of them. Yeah. So you get 2,000, 2 grams of vitamin C. If you have to treat yourself, treat yourself.
Yeah, let me add to that. I'm not a huge fan of some of the brands out there because I never know what's in them. So I advocate the liposomal vitamin C because it's bioavailability. So it's liposomal, liposomal, liposomal vitamin C. There are different brands out there. There are IV clinics open all around now where you can get an IV of vitamin C, no problem.
Make sure though they don't give you the beginner's dose. If you've got a wound or something brewing, they're gonna say, "Oh, we'll just give you a Myers cocktail," which is
want a higher dose.
Yeah, much higher. If you can get 25 to 50 grams, that's the best.
Okay.
But if you can't, then get what you can.
Okay. So what we'll do for the audience is we'll have some photos that we'll upload that you were willing to share with us. And Maryann, you're not doing any private counseling or anything like that, but for patients that have questions, they can contact me and I can make suggestions on, where you can find blood work. And if I can help you get blood work, I can do that here in the state of Florida, and other vitamins and nutrients. If you have questions, I can help offset some of those questions as well.
Yeah. Right.
Okay. So I'm going to conclude. I so appreciate you. I can't tell you how beneficial you've been as a friend and an advocate for people that have been patients of mine that we, questions back and forth. And I'm so glad that John is happy and healthy.
Oh yeah. He's great. He's great.
Okay.
Thanks so much.